Hey everybody, welcome back to Land Shark Garage. Well, we got this thing running. Might as well see if we can get it in there without having to move any snow, which is probably going to be a challenge, but I don't have a bobcat. It's got a little ice underneath it. No worries, it'll be okay. Anyway, about 9 degrees. Got to get the 49 in so we can start doing some work on it. This happened all around Christmas with ice underneath it. Did not get it moved, so it's hard as a rock right now, but hopefully we're just going to come right in here. We'll find out.
Stupid. It sounds, oh god, it stinks so bad.
It does, it smells horrible. I think the transmission's shot.
Really?
You had more reverse than I had forward, which is odd.
Well, it's probably because it's frozen and hasn't ran for a month or two. Oh, that's stinky.
Got a few things planned for it coming up. First project's going to be to get this rear end ready to put in it. If you recall, we don't really have any video footage on the 49. It was built pre-YouTube. Let's get after it. Here we go. Did a little work on this chrome grill that I picked up off of a scrap pile. A buddy of mine found it. Said I might be interested in it. Still got a little tweaking to do. Looks like they tried to pull the damn truck with the grill, but yeah. We'll fix it. Could have bought a new one. No sense in that. I want something that matches the rest of the truck, so I've got a chrome grill and a chrome bumper right now. If you remember correctly, we've got painted grill, painted front bumper on it. Change things up a little bit. A motor ready for that, kitten ready for that. So this 49 is built on a 1996 S10 long box 2-wheel drive chassis, and that particular unit, or S10, that vehicle came 2-wheel drive rear ends are shorter than 4-wheel drive rear ends, which are shorter than 4-wheel drive ZR2 rear ends. A ZR2 is a package that Chevrolet made S10 higher wider package, they called it, and it has this rear end in it. I was able to score one of these a couple years ago. Finally going to get around to putting it in there. You can see it's got disc brakes, which is going to be a big improvement. This is an 8.5-inch rear end. You could tell that by it's 10 bolt, but a 7.5-inch rear end is also a 10 bolt. But this one's got this little dog right here. All right. So on a 7.5-inch rear end, let's get underneath here. I'll show you. I think we've probably discussed this before, but let's take a look. So 7.5-inch rear end has that, doesn't have that block right there. It's got the little fang hanging down on either side, and that's how you can tell the difference. This rear end, if I remember correctly, is 48 inches from mounting plate to mounting plate, which means I'm running a 2-inch aluminum spacer on there right now. So I wanted the 8.5-inch rear end for its strength. I wanted one with the disc brakes because if I recall when we built this, the master cylinder we put in is set up for rear disc brakes, and I have a residual valve in there to control the drum brakes. So I should be already set up for that. If not, we'll have to swap out the master cylinder. But putting that wider rear end in is going to bring this tire out a little closer to the fender, and I'll be able to get rid of them 2-inch spacers. This rear end has not been measured yet, so let's take a look at that before we do anything else. This rear end is about 55 inches backing plate to backing plate, so I'll be able to get rid of my 2-inch spacers and pick up the advantage of having a much stronger rear end, as well as disc brakes and whatever we might find in here. I'm not sure what the ratio is on this. I never looked. This thing sat in the weeds for a long time, so everything's gonna go on it. I've got new rotors, new calipers, new pads. We're going to put new brake lines on. I've got new rubber brake lines. We have to delete this panhard bar that was on the ZR2. It'll bolt right down onto my leaf springs on the pads that are on here. Everything else should be all copacetic. I shouldn't have to change my drive shaft or any of that stuff. It's just a matter of breaking this down, seeing what we got inside of here, because if I tear into that and it's ugly, then, you know, it's not really going to be worth it. So we're going to pop that cover off first and start going there. I also got a new line here. So I'm basically just going to strip this whole rear end this afternoon, start putting stuff back on it, and that'll be this episode. We'll put this in the 49 when we really start digging into the motor, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have to go through the transmission. I'd like to figure out some kind of heating system in it because it has none right now, and when you're cruising around in October and stuff, you know, that makes a difference. So hopefully, we're getting kind of a late start. It's getting nice out now, but stuff happens. So, and then we'll put that grill in at the same time. You'll see when we do the front end, you take the whole front end off of these pickups to do them because it's so much simpler. There's like 6 bolts to take the whole front end off. So we'll pop that off. We'll put the chrome grill on, put the chrome bumper on, build the motor, etc., etc., etc. All right here in the Landshark Garage compound. Let's get after it, right, Jake? All right. I love the smell of 8090, especially if it's been sitting for a while. I can't wait. I won't be reusing the emergency brakes on this, so I'm going to be deleting that off of this whole setup too. But boy, this must have sat out in the ugly for a long time. Half metric, half standard vehicle. Is that what it is? Yeah, let's do metric. Yeah, I know. I was thinking exactly the same thing, Jake. Got tub and tile silicone on it, so someone's been into it before. Like I said, we're going to replace the brake lines on this, so I'm just going to rapidly delete them. Might be a little easier to take the line off too. Grab them retainers off of there later. A lot of these came with 373 posies. I don't see the tag that it's a posi, but like I said, the white tub and tile silicone that's on there might be the reason that that tag's not on there too. Saw something fall out of there. Well, that looks better than I thought it was gonna look. I was really expecting a hot mess in there. So it doesn't look too bad. I don't know. I don't need to really take it apart. It says 41/11 on it. Which I can't do in my head, but .373s is what that would figure out to. I'm sure that's what that H68 is. That's written on there too. So 373s, and I really think that's some type of posi. This isn't turning over because this is all jammed up on both of these. So I'm going to get this stuff off so that everything's free, and then we'll turn it over and take a real good look at it. But I think I'm going to be pretty happy with that. I've got 373s in the 49 right now, so just not a posi, it's just a one wheel peeler. The brake line's out. Like I said, I got new brake lines and stuff, so I'm not real concerned about these. Although I'll keep them clips because I won't be able to reuse it on this side. I'll have to come up with a clip on this because this will be out of here. This tan hard, like I said, mine doesn't have that on it. 18mm U-bolt is what holds it. I've been hosing these things down for like a month. Wow, we're gonna go with air. Guy just doesn't use air tools as much as he used to. I've got a fairly brand new air compressor, but boy, battery powered tools are so much easier. See if we can get this come off of here. I think we're just gonna have to cut it off, Jake. Did you catch it? You goofus. I don't really want to cut it off. Thinking I might cut into the old tube on the rear end is the word I was getting at. Ow. Come on. Yeah, oh Jake, I think we'll cut this side too. How's that sound? Be careful, Jake. Remember what they say, you're not supposed to catch sparks. There we go. Don't think that will be useful for anything anymore. Oh, you think we should paint this thing? I bet you Mrs. Landshark would want us to paint this. once we get it all tore apart. I wonder, that sucker should just come right off of our... Ooh. Ooh. Maybe the DeWalt cutoff wheel isn't as cracked up as it's supposed to be. She got some chunks missing. Good way to catch something in the eye. Good thing I had my safety glasses on. Proper eye protection, hearing protection, all that. Well, how do we break that loose, Jacob? Bigger hammer? Okay. All right, well. What do you think the chances of that popping right off of there are, Jacob? Oh. Think she's gonna do it? Oh, yuck. Boat anchors. That's years worth of crud. Oh no. She's a single wheeler. No, it's not. Come here. What kind of a system is that? If you know, leave it in the comments. I'm sure it's a stock GM thing, but is there something amiss with it? Is that a posi? Because if it is, that's not turning. Or do I just need to break shit loose over there to get it to turn? Huh. Interesting. Let's take that side apart. Never dealt with one of them. But I do know that maybe it is working right. Interesting. Might have to phone a friend on this deal. I want to make sure there's nothing in the pan. Like if there's something missing. Just not sure. Never played with one. Huh. We'll see how that plays out. Alright, so well, having never messed with this kind of posi, I went ahead and cleaned everything up. That's all the tub and tile crap that was on there. What a mess to get that off. Anyway, I didn't find anything in my fluid. So my instinct was put this back together, get it painted, get everything back together so that it's done. I called my buddy Mortsky. We talked a little bit about it. He's of the same frame of mind. If you're not finding anything in there, everything seems to be working. Kind of hard to test on the bench, but it sure feels like it works right. So I'm gonna button this back up so I can clean it and get it painted while it's still warm in here. And then I can finish up putting the rotors and calipers and pads on it after I get that all done. Because there is plenty of cleaning to take place. So we'll get that done. I'm using a gasket on this instead of toilet cleaner, tub and tile, whatever it was. It was nasty. It held good though. It did. Even the magnet in here didn't have anything concerning on it other than a bunch of sludge, you know, but that's not that big of a deal. I did go clean this up and pound it down. Trying to remember where this guy was. I think it was right here. Pretty sure it is now. Now that I put a bolt in there already. Oh yeah, that makes the most sense for the brake line. And there was one up here that sat like this, also for a brake line. I'm just going to clean this up and shoot some semi-flat black paint on it like we have on everything else that's underneath the 49 on most of our trucks. This kind of had a coating over it. I thought maybe it was falling apart, but it kind of just a black, I don't know. All right, there we go with that. Put some fluid in her. Put some 80 or 75-90 synthetic is what I'm going to run in it. Probably calls for 80-90, but 75-90 actually has most, I should say. I know Lucas does. I know Valvoline does. They have the friction modifier for limited slips already built into it, but I'm going to put some in because I had some on hand. About the only reason I'm doing it. And Interweb says this particular rear end takes 4 pints of fluid, so that's what we're going to put in. I actually usually put it in until it starts glugging out the side. If I don't do this now, I'll never remember to do it. That's the worst part. Or I'll put a big piece of tape on there. It says no diff oil. Something dumb like that. I think this is about the same gears that I have in the 49 right now. 373s, I think. Not sure, but seems to me. I know when I'm going 55 with that turbo 350 in there, she whines. Not whines, winds. Like 3,500 RPMs. A little more than I like, actually. Thought about switching transmissions, but that's a whole nother can of worms. We like to cruise the slow lanes anyway, 55, 60 miles an hour. Don't do a lot of interstate driving if we can help it. Well, there's 4 pints, that's what the interweb said, plus the friction modifier. So we'll keep going here. Like I said, I like to see it come out of that hole. And she's just starting to, so that was about right. There we go. Now I'm happy. Truck bed coating. And then the diff cover I just did with regular paint. I'll probably go over it with some more truck bed coating because I kind of like that. Durable, I don't know. Everything else underneath the truck is just this Krylon Rust Tough semi-gloss, but kind of like how that looks on the rear end. We'll get all the calipers and hardware and whatnot put on there and get this baby buttoned up. We got to build some brake lines. That'll be interesting. I haven't done that for a long time, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the new calipers on. I already got this one loaded with the brakes. That one I don't, so we'll go over that one when we get going there. But pretty straightforward put back together, I would hope. Shouldn't have to collapse anything. I had to go through and clean up my mounting holes for my mounting brackets. There we go. If you ever done brake calipers, bleeder always goes up so you can let the air out. I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times. We'll do this other side, mount the brake line, and then we'll run some brake line and we'll pretty much be done. So that's got the bleeder on it. Bleeder goes up. Calipers come with these anti-rattle clips. as do the pads. So got an extra set of them. Don't really need them, but I mean, I don't need an extra set is what I'm saying. Alright, so caliper pads, anti-rattle clips. These are my leftover bolts from the other stuff. These banjo bolts, I like to hang on to them because they're, as long as they're still working, they're still useful. But we'll go ahead and load these in. This one was pretty easy to put the anti-rattle clips in. Sometimes they're a pain in the butt, but they do work. So, of course, it helps that everything is brand new on it. You're not, you know, you don't really have to clean up all the surface areas and stuff like that like you do if you're just replacing pads. This is not a one-handed operation, that's for sure. So kind of slides behind the piston and snaps down into that fold in the bracket. Looks like I should have probably done this one first. There we go. You see how them tabs hold on to the bracket there. So that just sits like that. These two go on the end here. You know, so this will ride right in there when we get done. And they just drop in down here, and then there's a slot that they sit in. Same slot that the ends of them brake pads go into. Like that. This guy decided to cut loose a little bit. I suppose these probably get a little boogered up in shipping, maybe? Boogered up. So in this end, there's nothing that goes into the piston itself. Like some disc brakes, they got a little tab that goes into the piston on the caliper itself. Maybe that's just the front ones, I don't know. But let me get that. So it's leveled out in there. There we go. And that should sit right back against the piston. Same thing on this side. I should be ready to go. Gonna have to do some new hard brake lines. I'm hoping that I can do that without having to make them. Sometimes you can. We'll see. If I have to make them, that's fine too. Some people love to make brake lines. I do not. There we go. So the only thing we really have left is the brake hoses, which I'm betting I'm going to hope I kept the boxes for to make sure that I'm putting one where it's supposed to. Put the right ones where they're supposed to be. Center one's pretty self-explanatory. Whipped up this little portable vise yesterday. I've always had that, but put a little better vise on it so I can, I like to use that for like sheet metal and stuff. So you can put your tubing bender on here. I've got a brake that goes in here, you know, so you can bend small pieces of sheet metal. It was always back and forth to my workbench where I got another vise, but this one I can roll in the corner and just leave it there. Eventually I'm probably going to put some tabs on there to hold a couple hammers, so I got that. But yeah, that was my project yesterday when I was just not feeling like working on finishing up this rear end. So that center line's going to mount right on this tab. Yeah, I know, right? And then we're going to have to bend our line out from there. One problem I see is that the retainer for this driver's side brake line was part of that goofy panhard bar that the ZR2 had on it, and I cut that off, so I might have to re-engineer something there. So that'll work. And then when you buy a hose, it usually comes with the little copper washers, as does the caliper, so I'll put that with my missing brake junk. Maybe that's what we should call it. So it's just a matter of figuring out which way this guy sits. Right, Jake? Let's take the other one, look at it. They were different side to side, I know that. I can't remember what the difference was. One's a little longer than the other. I feel like. It's actually got a keyway in it. Huh, didn't know that. All right, keep that guy handy. Put that on this side. Does the guy really need to have that mounted solid? It isn't like it, you know, on the front end of a car, when you turn, your hose moves with it. This is just static here. It's not going anyplace other than, yeah. I don't know if a guy needs one or not. Be a little handier. This will be my first hot rod to have disc brakes all the way around. Most of our junk's got drum brakes on it. So this isn't going to get put in like anytime real soon. It's not on the schedule. I wish I knew what the schedule was, but anyway. First thing we got to do is get a motor built. We'll probably start that here as soon as I get this thing put someplace. We're going to build the small block Chevy 350, sitting right there. Everything else is out in the shed. Once we get that built, we're going to take it to a friend of mine's. Got a break-in table or a break-in stand that we can put it on and run it and break it in, make sure everything's all copacetic before we even start tearing this apart. Just because this does still run, it's just not real happy. But if I have issues with like a lifter or a cam or something on that, I don't want to have it all put in here and then have to tear it all apart or try and do it in the truck itself. So like I said a little earlier, this is set up, it's just a few bolts and I can take the whole front end off of it and work on it. So it's going to give me time to look at everything from when we built it, you know, everything that we did on it. It'll make it a little easier to get this rear end going, but this is going to get done first. Engine might be out when we put the rear end in, because there's really nothing we have to do with the rear end other than make sure that that master cylinder in there is set up for disc brakes, which I do believe it is. I haven't really looked that close at it, but I'm pretty sure when I bought that kit from Speedway to put brakes in this, you know, because the brakes in these are underneath the floor on the driver's side, and mine's mounted on the firewall, so I deleted the driver's side floor deal. Anyway, before the battery died, we were talking about the master cylinder in the 49, and I'm pretty sure when I bought that kit from Speedway, I bought one for a disc brake and put a residual valve in to run my drum brakes, because I knew I'd eventually want to put disc brakes in this. I'm hoping that this 4-inch wider rear end is going to bring that wheel out just a little bit closer to the fenders, but they do sit pretty good. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to change the wheels up on this too, but I haven't figured out quite yet what we're looking at. I like that look. I just don't know if I like the color anymore. I think a gloss black would look kind of good on there with the chrome covers. So let's run our hard lines on this and button this bad boy up. So I was having battery issues, probably because we haven't been out here for a month, maybe 2. But so as I was messing around with that, I got to thinking that I don't want to run my hard lines now, because my U-bolts are going to be in the way, and I have to adjust for that also. So cutting and making them now is going to be detrimental because of the U-bolts. So that part's going to wait. So here's what we did. Got a rear end out of a 1996 S10, 8.5-inch rear end with 373s and a weirdo posi lock. I think someone said it was a gov lock. It's one of the guys I talked to, but it appeared that it worked. This is going to work out good when we get it in there. And that 373 is going to be a frickin' roaster, I can tell you that. If you got comments, drop them down below and we can talk about it. Maybe you can tell me what that posi is in there and how that thing works, because I'm used to ones with springs. I was just glad a bunch of springs didn't fall out when I pulled that out. I was glad there was grease in it, because this thing has been sitting for a long time. You could tell by the calipers and stuff. But hey, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Never forget, drive your shit. We'll see ya.